Hey, how you doing? Uh, so today we are going to have the second in my series of Liquid Barn first test videos. First batch was beverages. Today we're going to focus on some of their fruits. A lot of the advice that I've received about Liquid Barn is they do bakeries well. So of course what we're going to do is really dive down on some of the fruits and see what's going on there. Today I have their blue raspberry, their honeydew, their banana, and their green apple flavor. And again, just because I like saying it, I didn't pay for these. Liquid Barn sent them to me, so shout out to Liquid Barn. So first I have their green apple. I haven't heard all that much good about this flavor, so I figured why not just bang it out first. Um, so what I do get is sort of an interesting candy apple flavor. It definitely feels like it's on the candied side, but it isn't quite as vibrant as you expect from a candy apple. And then the actual body is kind of waxy and warm and metallic. They're definitely headed in a Jolly Rancher green apple candy kind of direction with this. You do get that very distinct candy green apple. There's nothing that's particularly realistic here. In terms of what this flavor does right, I guess, it doesn't have that like sort of intense grassy note that a lot of more realistic green apples can have. It also doesn't have that like weird little bit of like butyric stuff on the back end, at least after steeping it for about 3 weeks. Overall though, the flavor feels a little soft and muted. It feels pretty flat. You know, for a candy you expect something to be like bright and obnoxious. It just doesn't really do that for me. You get a little bit of sharpness at the beginning, but then it kind of fades out to this really warm, sort of waxy, pre-sucked on green apple sucker kind of flavor. I don't think that texture there is really helping the flavor all that much. It does have like a noticeable metallic twang to it. I've heard it described as plastic, but it kind of steeps out to something that's just like a little bit mineral. It doesn't really seem like it fits all that well. Liquid Bar themselves suggest using this around 3%, which, you know, in general means they don't want you to taste a lot of this, I guess. For me, I'd probably skip it. I don't know. While it doesn't have some of the problems that other green apple candy flavors does, it isn't vibrant enough, and it has enough of its own baggage that I wouldn't really try to mix it into another juice. So next I have their honeydew flavor. I wasn't expecting to dig this one as much as I do. I get like a honeydew cream flavor, which is interesting. So in terms of the honeydew here, I would say it's fairly realistic. It kind of tastes like a fruit salad cut honeydew. There's no real rind. It's a little flat, but in general, I think it gives a pretty realistic non-candied sort of honeydew flavor. But the interesting thing is that honeydew flavor seems like it's sort of in the back of the flavor. And what I'm mostly getting out of it is like a lightly vanilla cream with some actual decent, like richer notes to it. It's all actually pretty well balanced. It just doesn't really jump out at me as like, hey, this is a honeydew flavor. I think, unlike a lot of these Liquid Barn flavors, I think this one's actually going to mix really well. I think you can use it for sort of the body in a lot of recipes where you want both that cream and that melon component. One of the easiest things to do would be mix it with cantaloupe, but I could see kind of going for that watermelon route too, as long as the watermelon isn't too like sour and candied. I also think this would work pretty well with brighter fruit flavors too. I mean, I could see this like strawberries or kiwis, maybe even some sweeter orange flavors or some sweeter citrus flavors, something like that. It's interesting. It wasn't what I was expecting when I picked up the Liquid Barn Honeydew, but I'm definitely not mad at it. Liquid Barn suggests using this at 6%. And again, seems pretty dead on. I mean, I think it has a nice, subtle, sort of soft honeydew flavor and a decent creamy body at 6%. I think you can get away with cranking it up a little bit more than that, but I don't think that honeydew is ever going to really magically turn into a really fresh, realistic honeydew flavor that's up front of the mix. I think you'd just be kind of cranking up the volume a little bit. But yeah, if you want to mix cream and honeydew, this really isn't a bad starting point for you. Next, I have their banana flavor. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of banana flavors in general. This didn't really do all that much to change my mind. I do get some artificial banana up front. It's definitely that sort of like runts genre of banana. It is a little soft though. It doesn't have that like really sort of aggressive banana punch to it. Reminds me more of sort of like a Laffy Taffy kind of banana, like distinctly artificial but not quite as overpowering. I will say I've noticed some pretty serious fading issues with this. When I was doing my initial review for it, went ahead and reviewed it, steeped like 2.5 weeks, and then went back and checked out some of the second opinions. They were saying, hey, this flavor fades. Went back and mixed it up fresh, and it's a whole lot more vibrant fresh. So I think you can expect this to fade out quite a bit. It does seem like there's a little bit of a more sort of subtle, realistic, but still kind of green banana back behind that artificial banana flavor. Even after that artificial banana flavor fades out, I'm still not getting like a clear hit of realistic banana. It's definitely in the accent percentage. The overall effect is a little creamy. It reminds me of sort of a watered down version of Loran's banana cream. And in truth, I think if you're looking at this kind of profile, that's probably the direction I would go in. I think the cream there is a little bit better, and I think that banana is a little bit more vibrant. This just seems like you're not really going to be able to make it work in a mix all that well. And while it's sort of a competent shake and vape at 7% like Liquid Barn suggests, I just think you can do a little bit better for your bananas. Last for today, I have their Blue Raspberry. This is one of the Liquid Barn flavors with some hype behind it, and honestly, seems completely and totally justified. That's a really competent blue raspberry flavor. I do get like that sort of heavier candy raspberry. There's nothing too floral or sharp about it. It does start out with some sort of brighter notes, but that kind of fade into that like nice, heavy, syrupy, fake-ass raspberry, but still pleasant kind of body there. I think the mouthfeel here does quite a bit to sort of sell that blue raspberry hard candy vibe too. It's definitely heavy, syrupy. It even has like kind of that hard candy sheen to the flavor, however you'd actually quantify that. With all that said though, I do taste a distinct amount of blue here too, which is nice. There's some almost like blueberry-ish, like blue tartness here. There's this big debate about what an actual blue raspberry flavor is, and it probably just seeped into my head, but I could totally see how there's maybe a little bit of like a yellow peach or something in the top notes there too. Just that sort of tartar accent to kind of set it off. It also has a little bit of that artificial, like overly food dyed flavor to it. Just that little hint of bitterness that really helps kind of sell it as like an artificial bright blue raspberry flavor. So I'd see this more as a solo or even like a primary note in a mix. I don't think anybody really ever says, hey, let's just have a subtle accent of blue raspberry. That's not really that kind of flavor. Liquid Barn suggests mixing this at 8%. And again, they're probably in the ballpark. I think you could actually go a little bit higher with this too. This is one of the Liquid Barn flavors that is VG dominant. So it actually has a higher specific weight too. So if you're like me and you're lazy and you just ballpark out the 1 gram a milliliter kind of measure for all your other flavors, I mean, you could definitely look at adjusting your specific gravity. But I will say I tested at 8% using that 1 gram a milliliter thing, and I got a fairly full flavor. If I wasn't using that, I'd probably be closer to 10%. But yeah, it's a remarkably competent blue raspberry flavor. A lot of the other blue raspberry flavors that I've tried have been kind of lackluster or don't have a lot of versatility. Flavor Rest Blue Raspberry, I'm sorry, I don't get it. Some people swear by it. OSDIY makes their blue raspberry slush flavor, which I will say is probably a slightly bluer blue raspberry than this one, but it does have that kind of like slush vibe to it. So I think you'd be better off, instead of trying to turn that into a candy, just starting out with this flavor and building your blue raspberry around that. But yeah, totally justified in the hype. You know, if you're looking for a blue raspberry, I would wholeheartedly suggest this one. So I hope that was helpful if you're looking at these flavors, if you're interested in these profiles. Another Liquid Barn testing video in the can, only a whole lot more of them to go. So thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you later.